Private Elias Carter crouched low in the muck of the trench, the cold, viscous mud seeping through his uniform, chilling him to the bone. Vidiian 3, a planet whose name he had never heard before his deployment, had quickly transformed from an obscure footnote in his life to the center of his nightmarish reality. The constant drone of artillery fire, punctuated by the terrifying roar of the Draconids, formed a backdrop to his new existence. Elias was young, his face still bearing the softness of youth, untouched by the scars of battle. But each day in the trenches etched new lines of fear and determination into his visage. Around him, other soldiers, equally mud-caked and weary, shared silent glances that spoke volumes of their shared dread and resolve. Commander Jacob Holt, a figure of stoic resilience, paced the length of their trench. His gaze was ever outward, towards the enemy that lurked beyond their meager defenses. Holt's reputation preceded him. Tales of his exploits in battles across the galaxy were a common thread among the soldiers. Yet, it was his unyielding composure in the face of the Draconid threat that cemented his status among his troops. In a world where hope was as scarce as ammunition, Holt's presence was a bastion of stability. The Draconids were unlike any foe humanity had faced. Towering beasts with scales that deflected the most advanced of human weaponry, their fiery breath turned soldiers into ash in mere seconds. The first time Elias saw one, its size and ferocity froze him in place, a primal fear gripping his heart. It was only the shove of a fellow soldier that snapped him out of his trance, pulling him back to the relative safety of the trench. As the UEC forces retreated, leaving Elias's unit stranded, the reality of their situation sank in. They were alone, abandoned on a planet that seemed to crave their demise as much as the creatures that hunted them. Supplies were dwindling, morale was low, and the constant, oppressive bombardment by the Draconids left them in a state of perpetual siege. One night, as Elias took his turn at watch, the silence was broken by Commander Holt's voice. "Carter," he said, his tone carrying a weight that immediately drew Elias's attention. "You're scared. That's good. It means you're alive. But fear can't rule you. Not here. Not against them." Elias swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Yes, sir. I never imagined." "None of us did," Holt interjected, his eyes scanning the darkness beyond the trench. "But imagining doesn't win wars. Action does. We're going to face them head-on, Carter. And we're going to survive. Because we have no other choice." The words were meant to inspire, to instill a sense of purpose. Yet, as Elias peered into the darkness, the glowing eyes of the Draconids staring back at him from the night, he felt the gravity of their situation. They were pawns in a game far beyond their understanding, fighting for a speck of mud in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. In the days that followed, the unit's situation grew increasingly dire. The Draconids' assaults became more frequent, their roars a constant reminder of the death that awaited just beyond the trench. Elias witnessed men he had come to consider brothers fall to the beasts, their screams echoing in his nightmares. It was during one such assault that Commander Holt made his stand. As the unit huddled in the trench, the sounds of the approaching Draconids growing louder, Holt's voice cut through the fear. "We can't get away from it, we may as well go through it," he declared, a determined glare set upon his weathered face. The plan was madness, a direct assault on a Draconid that had been terrorizing their position for weeks. Yet, in Holt's eyes, Elias saw not desperation, but a fierce determination. It was a call to action, a refusal to go quietly into the night. Preparations began at once. Every remaining piece of weaponry, every scrap of explosive, was gathered. The unit, though diminished in numbers, was galvanized by Holt's resolve. They were no longer just survivors, they were warriors, ready to face their fears head-on. As dawn broke, painting the muddy battlefield with hues of orange and red, Elias and his comrades readied themselves for the assault. They were outmatched, outgunned, and likely marching to their deaths. But they were united, a small band of humans standing against the darkness. Commander Holt's voice was the last thing Elias heard before they went over the top. Through the inferno, soldiers. For humanity. And with that, they charged into the maw of the beast, into the heart of the battle that would define them. It was a moment of pure, terrifying clarity for Elias, a realization that in the face of annihilation, the only way forward was through. The ground beneath Elias's feet churned into a sludge of mud and blood as he ran, the cacophony of war thundering in his ears. The air was thick with the stench of burning flesh and the acrid smoke from the incendiary rounds they carried. Ahead, the silhouette of the Draconid loomed large, a monstrous aberration against the dawning light, its scales shimmering with an otherworldly menace. Elias's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a deafening drum that echoed his march towards what seemed like certain death. The beast roared, a sound so primal and terrifying it seemed to shake the very planet they fought for. Flames licked the edges of its gaping maw, preparing to unleash a torrent of fire upon them, but Commander Holt led them fearlessly, his rifle in hand, shouting orders over the din of battle. Spread out. Flank it. Aim for the underbelly and eyes. His voice, somehow both commanding and reassuring, gave Elias and the others the courage to press forward. The Draconid turned its attention towards the advancing soldiers, its eyes glowing with a malevolent intelligence. It struck out with talons as large as a man, swiping at the air where Holt had been moments before. The commander rolled to the side, avoiding the deadly swipe, and fired a round into the creature's eye. The beast reeled back, a roar of pain filling the air, its eye now a ruined mass. Encouraged by Holt's success, the unit spread out as trained, moving like shadows across the battlefield. They fired at the beast from all angles, distracting it, harrying it, making it turn and twist to face its assailants. Elias found a position behind a fallen log, steadying his rifle against the rough bark. He remembered Holt's words, aimed carefully, and fired. His shot struck true, hitting the creature's underbelly, where its scales were softer, less impenetrable. The Draconid shrieked, its movements becoming more erratic as it tried to fend off the attacks from all sides. Yet, for every wound they inflicted, the beast seemed only to become more enraged, more dangerous. It unleashed a breath of fire, sweeping across the field, igniting the very air. Elias felt the heat sear the edges of his face, the flames narrowly missing him as he ducked behind cover. They were making progress, but the cost was high. Elias saw one of his comrades, a young soldier who had joked just the night before about what they'd eat when they got home, engulfed in flames. The sight filled him with a cold rage, a determination to avenge the fallen. Commander Holt signaled for the final push. They had weakened the beast, created an opportunity. With a series of coordinated explosions, they aimed to disorient the Draconid long enough to deliver a killing blow. Elias set his charges, his hands shaking not from fear, but from a surge of adrenaline. The explosions rocked the ground, sending shockwaves through the mud. As the beast reeled from the blasts, Holt led the charge. Now! All together, he shouted. Elias emerged from his cover, joining his remaining comrades in a final, desperate assault. They fired everything they had, pouring their anger, their sorrow, and their hope into each shot. The Draconid, overwhelmed and wounded grievously, faltered. Its roars dimmed to whimpers, its movements slowed. And then, with one last concerted effort from the unit, the creature fell, crashing to the ground with a thunderous impact that shook the earth. Silence descended upon the battlefield, broken only by the heavy breathing of the survivors. Elias looked around at his comrades, at their faces marked by soot and tears, and felt an overwhelming sense of camaraderie, of shared sacrifice. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, but the victory was bittersweet. The cost had been steep, the losses profound. Commander Holt approached Elias, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "You did well, soldier. We all did." His voice was soft, carrying a weight of sorrow and pride. As they waited for rescue, sitting amidst the ruins of the battlefield, Elias realized that this moment, this battle, would define him forever. He had faced his fears, fought through the inferno, and found within himself a strength he had not known he possessed. The war on Vidiian III would continue, but for Elias and those who had fought beside him, their battle was over. They had proven that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, humanity's spirit could not be quenched. They had gone through the inferno, and emerged not just as survivors, but as heroes. In the days to come, their story would be told and retold, a testament to the courage and resilience of those willing to face the dragons at the end of the world. And for Elias, the memories of Vidiian III, of the comrades he had lost and the battle he had won, would stay with him, a reminder of the cost of war, and the price of peace. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this story. We need your help to get our fun little tales out there for more people to enjoy.